Hello and welcome to Surviving Scientology on YouTube. We're part of the Scientology Money Project and the extended SPTV network. I'm your host, Jeffrey Augustine. Glad you could be here. I'm doing a program tonight on Pablo Escobar and that as it relates to Scientology. But first, we have to update you on Nextdoor because it's kicking loose. It's kicking loose here on the Nextdoor app. In the local community, I shared yesterday that OSA has been using Nextdoor to impersonate local outreach residents. And just to refresh your memory, just share the screen. A lot of people write me about that. So, oh yes, there was a public notice. The neighborhood here is under attack. I repeat, if you live in Los Feliz Estates, the Oaks, Ferndale, Los Feliz, the area is under attack. And someone named John F. wanted you to know that. It's a public notice. So there you go. And we shared this yesterday that this new term OSA is trying to float called stochastic terrorism. We're going to talk about that today. Are we going to talk about that? So anyway, they're actively looking. These people are not peacefully protesting. They're actively looking to agitate Franklin Village residents and patrons for the sake of monetized live stream feeds. Ooh. So it says engagement has become violent, and once it has begun, it will not stop, period. Do not be baited. Yeah. Particularly use caution when you see any of the recent agitators, but particularly the below pictured stochastic terrorists. So there's Streets, DOA, Asia. And this thread has just been going on. And it's mostly people talking about OSA, Scientology. They're not confusing OSA, you're just failed, and they're talking about La Poubelle. This thread is definitely the Streisand effect. And here we notice an internal investigation has been opened against the detective for false arrest and falsifying a police report. So the locals are weighing in. People here do not like Scientology. There's the enclave at La Poubelle, of course, and that seems to be the hangout. So they're making all kinds of false claims on this. And this smells like an OSA statement to me. It's showing this commenter makes the observation that there's plenty of video evidence that only La Poubelle customers have been the aggressors. The videos are explicit. So the owner of La Poubelle would follow the Jane Does in court and be unkind to them. So I have to tell you, things get noticed. The Masterson case was a big deal here. I mean, it's a big deal nationally, internationally, globally. It got so much coverage. But here, because it happened, because Masterson attacked his victims, one of them certainly in La Poubelle, that became a center of focus. And he was a regular there. And in fact, when Francois, the owner of La Poubelle, the creperie here in Franklin Village, and just to interject, the Celebrity Center is on Franklin and Bronson. So that area of town, Franklin Avenue, is called Franklin Village. So that's where La Poubelle is. That's where the Celebrity Center is. I'm just down the street. We're in Los Feliz. Across the street's Ferndale, and then you go down to Atwater Village, Silver Lake. So all the little neighborhoods here have names. And so Franklin Village is where La Poubelle is located, and the Celebrity Center right across the street. So that, and we went through the geography. So I want to go into before we do the Pablo Escobar and drug smuggling and Scientology story, which is really interesting because this involves a U.S. federal agency. And I'll leave it at that. I want to tell you about that. Let's get the straw out of frame. So let me go to the comments. You look great in the hat. Thank you, Sweet Liberty. Today's raining and cold. Great hat, Jeff. Thank you, Pam. Yeah, it was rainy, cold, and we're having another atmospheric river here in Los Angeles, and it is going to rain. Monkey Pods, great to see you. I like the kangaroo emojis. Always good to see you. Wayne's World, one of our regulars. Thanks for coming by, Wayne's World. And possibly Trouble. I think definitely Trouble. Hi, all. Pippi Longstocking. Hello, everyone. Hello to you. Jen and two cats. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jen, and say hi to your two cats. We have cats here too. Hi, all. That's an unpronounceable name, but I can get Hellraiser Mug 13X. I like that name. They also tried Denver tonight. Thank you for letting us know. I like this live streaming because we can get news from around the world. Speaking of Danny Masters, he got jumped by 2 gang members. Yeah, that was in the news. According to JD DeLay, yeah, he got assaulted, and there you go. And so he was moved, and this is interesting to watch just how much former inmates are reporting on Danny Masterson, especially the California inmates. So I'm watching that. And Scientology, it just shows you wanted celebrities, your project celebrity. L. Ron Hubbard called for people, for the Church of Scientology to recruit celebrities. Well, you recruited Danny Masterson, and you got a lot more than you bargained for there, because Scientologist Danny Masterson. And as I noted, I posted that he had been declared a suppressive, but that was apparently some of my contacts who'd been handled about Danny by OSA, because Aaron Smith-Levin corrected and said, nope, not declared. And so live by celebrity, die by celebrity, bitch. That's what I say to L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah, you got Danny. He's your boy. And he has some serious criminal trials. And you guys in Scientology covered it up for 20 years. So part of what's happening at La Poubelle is the Danny Masterson story. And we're going to get to Francois. Wait a minute. Pam Abernathy asks, could it be OSA's ham-fisted attempt to use social media seems to be backfiring? Could it be? Yes, Pam, it could be. And we're going to look at that. And we're going to start with all the stuff on La Poubelle and the live streamers, Streets LA, William, Jessica, Chris with Hellcat, everyone else. And then we're going to put Pablo Escobar and the drug smuggling and the Scientology connection to the end. And that's some of my work. Wonder who sets it up. Yeah, lol. They're such Noja Beeswax. Hi, Jeffrey. Hello. Oh, look, I like that logo. Shit show supervisor. Yeah, no kidding. I think that's David Miscavige. He's the shit show supervisor. And then there's Auntie Harshu. Hello, good people of the internet. I hope you're all doing fine. I do too. Uncle Jeffrey, the real two's coming. Thanks. I'm your uncle. I'm old enough to be everyone's uncle. The old SP uncle, the guy who's fun at parties and brings booze. Pam, we are in Ventura County as wet. Well, it's wet here too, Pam. And I was out fixing things around the house, and then I had to go skulking. I did a PI. I did drive by to see if some guy was where he shouldn't be. That's all I'll say there. Some people claim to be one place, but they're actually another, and they're up to no good. And it usually involves money and some other misbehavior. A name at Pab Abernathy. I'm sure Scientology will handle this flap with a few well-placed telexes to the members of Congress. Telexes or envelopes full of money. And I like this. Adorable Anarchy. What a great, that's a beautiful picture. Thank you. Anna, hello, Stochastic people. Yes, Stochastic terrorists, welcome. So, except Congress no longer has telex machines, and the ones who did are long dead. Yeah, but with how old all of our politicians are in the LA, I guess you can be dead and keep serving in office. That's what it's going to come down to. Little political joke. Yeah, it's like they're they're old, and there could be secret Scientology telex in Congress. Who knows? You know, you could have a Scientology could keep when they're hidden somewhere. Greg Mitchell is Scientology's lobbyist in Washington D.C. and his wife Renee. Um, that's a sweet looking hat. Would be cool if you wore a different hat each time. Well, I just might do that. I have maybe I should wear an astronaut's helmet. Uh, Hi, AA. There you go. Hi. Okay, so let's get started. I wanted to start just with to give our new members, live streamers, people who are fairly new to the movement, welcome. And the great thing about this movement of Scientology watching, criticism, activism is anyone, anywhere, at any time can jump in. You don't need to have ever been in the church or covered it. You can jump in right now, February 19, 2024, and decide you're going to expose the Church of Scientology. And that's part of, we're going to get to the word stochastic. Stochastic is where, but first, just a bit of something I want to do is I wanted to remember our friend Sean Lonsdale, and so many Tory, Bazazia, Mark Bunker. I mean, a lot of the Orgar will remember Sean Lonsdale, and he was the original live streamer. Let's go back there. Sean Lonsdale in 2006 set up a camera, Clearwater, right at Cleveland, there at the Fort Harrison, and he just live streamed, and it drove Scientology insane. And they went after Sean Lonsdale. So, in memory of Sean, who we lost in 2008, he tragically unalived himself. So, if you need mental health care, get it. I knew Sean. I would talk to him on the phone. Bless his memory. And Sean, this is sort of to honor Sean, who we lost in 2008. But in 2006, he was the original live streamer. And I just wanted you to give you part of the history of the movement. Is Sean is the guy who took a camera and a tripod and an American flag and set up and said, I have the right to live stream, and I'm going to do this for public access television. So Zenu bless you, Sean. And this was a North Pinellas Times headline. Michael Fitzgerald, local Scientologist, assaulted Sean. So this I'll put on my blog. Let me put this slide deck. But this happened, what is the date? Tuesday, July 11, 2006. Michael Fitzgerald was arrested because he assaulted Sean when he was filming there on the street corner. And he's 52, so that was 2006. So that's what, almost 20 years ago. So I guess Michael Fitzgerald objected to being videotaped. So you can see there's a history going back. And when Mark Bunker was doing a lot of filming in the 90s, he was assaulted, and plenty of other people were assaulted. So you can see these assaults by Scientologists against people with cameras. Nothing new. And so proud of Sean, miss him. He's a very creative soul, and Michael Fitzgerald got arrested. So let's jump in. Now, this is Francois Coster, owner of La Poubelle. This was taken in the LA Times during the pandemic when she was raising money. She raised $77,000, so she didn't go out of business. And if you look at the donors on the GoFundMe, it's still up. Danny Masterson and his now ex Bijou contributed money, as did many other Scientologists. The next time, I think the next time I walk by La Poubelle, I will bring out my phone and start streaming. Good. It's free to just live stream. I am in the financial sector, and I've given reports on some of the items you have mentioned. Thanks for the help. Well, thank you for your help, Adorable Anarchy. I appreciate it very much, because the more we do it, and I do have someone I'm working with. I owe a lot of people emails, but I've been working. Astronaut helmet, cool. We're going to space. Woohoo! Yeah, we are. We are in space right now, if you stop to think about it. But we need to go to space, as in outer space. Where will the protest be on February 24th? D. Flawless, I like those glasses. I don't know. Someone please, let us know. Blessed memory, Sean, a hero. He was a guy who just stood up and said, I'm going to do this. Possibly trouble. I don't know who you are, what you're talking about. I don't know. Can't follow it. And anyway, so this is Francois during the pandemic. She had a PPP loan. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of people borrowed it. But I wanted you to show another picture. This is Francois during the Masterson trial. There's Masterson. Danny Masterson, who's now at San Luis Obispo, where L. Ron Hubbard went when he had dementia and was hiding out from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. So we can see that Francois' appearance has somewhat changed. One wonders if she spent some money getting some work. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that those were hard times for her business. And with Danny, she obviously glammed up. And so that, because she insulted the Jane Does, and she was in court there every day. I remember seeing her in court. I didn't know who she was at the time, but there she is with Sean Hawley. Danny, of course, now is wearing the orange jumpsuit, or if he's, what did Tommy Scovel say? J-Cat, that category. He might be in one of those, might be in a, for lack of a better word, a straitjacket. I don't know. So stochastic, I looked up the word because we're going to do, Scientology says, never go past a word you don't understand. Never go past a word you don't understand. That's printed in every book, every Scientology book, everywhere. So Dr. L. Ron Hubbard, nuclear physicist, instructed us to never go past a word. So I looked it up. Stochastic, quote, randomly determined, having a random probability distribution or pattern that may be analyzed statistically, but may not be predicted precisely. Use in a sentence, please. Quote, my best efforts to destroy the Connors have failed despite stochastic calculation indicating a very high probability of success, from Terminator 2 Rising Storm. So again, stochastic is randomly determined, having a random probability distribution or pattern that may be analyzed statistically, but may not be predicted precisely. So when OSA is calling live streamers stochastic terrorists, it's saying, if we go back, that that's randomly determined when and where the live streamers will show up. There's a random probability distribution or pattern that can be analyzed statistically, but may not be predicted precisely. So in other words, OSA knows there's going to be trouble, but they don't want when or where. So I've codified this since I'm old guard and I'm old and I can do this, because you can just take initiative and do stuff. You don't need anyone's permission to do anything as long as you stay within the bounds of the law. So I have now, as a man of science, stochastic is applied to the Church of Scientology. I have a new factor called Augustine's law. And since we as live streamers and activists can make our own tech, here's Augustine's law. Quote, there is a 100% probability that Scientology's depraved and malicious conduct will be exposed on a 24/7, 365 basis. That is my law. So that's part of my stochastic. There's a 100% probability that Scientology's depraved and malicious conduct will be exposed on a 24/7, 365. You can take that to the bank. Okay, Scientology's critics have a 100% uptime globally. The internet, activists, the media, governments, and legal systems never sleep. So Scientology, what you're looking at is us, this collective, this global collective who wants to expose you. We have a 100% uptime globally. The internet, activists, the media, governments, and legal systems never sleep. And finally, unless informed in advance of actions in opposition to Scientology, the Office of Special Affairs has zero ability to predict when and where such actions will occur. These are important because OSA, for a long time, their intelligence wing of OSA intelligence was supposed to be able to give predictions. Predict, they call it. What's the predict on that? Well, when they use the word stochastic, what they're saying is things will happen. We just don't know when or where. In other words, OSA has lost it. They don't know when or where to predict anything. And, you know, there's actually yes, I posted it yesterday, and that was from the Max Planck Institute of Law, Crime, and Science. I posted it, but it's not predictable. And also, Scientology is just borrowing the term. They borrowed the term, just like Hubbard borrowed terms. So I'm aware, but we're not going to get a name. Stochastic and auto mechanics refers to the idea 17-to-1 fuel air rate. Okay, so fair enough. But the point I want to do is, since Scientology is using stochastic probability, since they're using it in their own way, I wanted to use it in my own way to have 100% probability. So it's always certain that Scientology will be exposed 24/7, 365. Okay, we know that. We just don't always know when or where. And by that, I mean, we don't know when or where Scientology will be exposed. So we know that there is a 100% probability that Scientology will employ its policy of fair game in response to any significant event. I dropped a word. And their ability to confront and shatter suppression is significantly decreased. This is interesting. I figured this out. Only money spent on non-Scientology sources give Scientology any ability to fight. So what Scientology has to do, paradoxically, is they have to spend money on dirty cops, dirty contracts, dirty PIs, assaults by agents provocateur, and non-Scientology lawyers. In and of itself, Scientology is now powerless without spending money to pay for non-Scientology sources of help. This is a point I wanted to make to David Miscavige, especially, and to OSA. L. Ron Hubbard said that survival is the dynamic principle of existence. And what I wanted to say to these SOBs and OSA and to David Miscavige, who's the chief SOB, is you can only survive now because you're paying non-Scientology lawyers. The tech is useless for your survival. What you need are non-Scientologist lawyers and First Amendment religious protections here in America. So the tech didn't survive. What's keeping David Miscavige and Scientology hanging on by their fingernails is the First Amendment, which had nothing to do with tech at all, zero. Even while Hubbard decried governments as being insane, Scientology needs the United States Constitution to survive and live its miserable, shabby, perverted, horrific existence. And it needs non-Scientology lawyers in court. In fact, David Miscavige needed a team of non-Scientology lawyers to avoid being served, and they even failed him at that. So these are some of the things. You want to talk about stochastic probabilities? My prediction is that David Miscavige will go down in ruin legally. I just don't know when or where. So I can predict that there's trouble ahead for Scientology, but we don't know when or where. And that's the live streamers, Streets LA, literally came out of nowhere, just like Anonymous. So Scientology will always have trouble. David Miscavige will eventually collapse, and just don't know when or where. So continuing on with what I wanted to say, I have Aaron's rule. The profit motive on YouTube is a great lesson to open a YouTube channel and expose Scientology. And that's something that I really admire Aaron for saying, is everyone should open a channel. We need more channels. The fact that you can make money, I want to address that. Aaron's maxim, I call it. Every day is a great day not to be in a cult. I think that should be called Aaron's maxim in honor of Aaron. And here's what I want to say. Scientology does nothing but make money, take money. If you look at it, I used to go through 990s, and I still do. If you look at the Charles Schwab Foundation 990, each and every year Scientology applies to the Charles Schwab Foundation for money, and they get it. At least 6 of their bodies get it. Church of Scientology International, Flag, I believe Celebrity Center, a couple other churches. Scientology does nothing but make money, take money, and they're nothing but money-centric, greedy. And that's what the whole thing is, money. Scientology wants to take all the money and never give anything back to the community, to people that ripped off, nothing. And Scientology will take everything. They'll take your children, they'll take your bone marrow, your gold teeth. And L. Ron Hubbard said it was a crime to make money exposing Scientology. And Scientology's fond of saying, Leah Remini made money, doing this. Yeah, she did. And I think what I want to call it, Aaron's rule, the profit motive is a great reason to expose Scientology. Scientology, there's nothing wrong with people making money on YouTube exposing you. There's nothing wrong at all. And you're hypocrites because all you're about is money. And look at the Chase Wave credit card fraud. You even engage in credit card fraud. Your guy, David Gentili of GPP Capital, ripped off $1.7 billion from 17,000 investors. Your two OTA brothers, the chiropractors, Jay and Jeff Spina, $60 million, $60 to $80 million Medicare fraud. So you guys are thieves, crooks, con artists, and there's nothing wrong. Go create a YouTube channel and expose Scientology and make some money. Capitalism, that's capitalism at work, and it's capitalism in the service of exposing Scientology. So that's a terrific thing to do. And you can whine on Nextdoor all you want locally here at Franklin Village. But the bulk of the comments on Nextdoor is nobody likes you guys. That you have the little BT cluster around La Poubelle. And we know who those people are. Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard said, money is not a sordid subject. I'm glad people are making money exposing you bastards. I am glad, and I'm making a little bit of money, so I need more followers. You have to help me get more followers because I want to get, make some income off exposing Scientology. And, there you go. Pam, remember, LRH wanted more cash than he earned from his horrible sci-fi. Said the way to make more money is make up religion. Yes, that is correct. And so, yes, I like this. The profit motive is a great reason to open a channel, make plenty of money. And I wanted to just add that the other night I was down there at La Poubelle, and I was, I did a live stream there, watching LAPD dirty cops harass people. And William bought everyone ice cream. Thank you, William. Streets LA bought everyone ice cream. And we were patronizing the businesses there at Franklin Village. And it's not inexpensive ice cream, it's gourmet. And so William treated everyone. Thank you, William. And that was part of the money that came from his YouTube channel exposing Scientology. So William actually converted part of his live stream income from YouTube into treating us to ice cream. And that made the ice cream even more delicious, that it came from William exposing Scientology. That made the ice cream taste even better, that the money that paid for it came from William's work and genius in exposing Scientology. That is funny. That's the best ice cream in the world. Who's causing trouble? I need a mod. Make sure they're still subscribed. Are we having trolls? CCTV, let me see. Oh, yeah, sorry, you're gone. I have to get a mod because I'm getting more commenters than ever. So if you want a mod, yeah, CCTV's gone. He's bounced. Sorry, you're gone. You're just off the ranch. We don't want you here. Yeah. He's been doing a subject poor job trolling all the live streams. Yeah, OSA is not keeping up on the stochastic terrorists. So every day is a great day not to be in a cult. Now, these are the sources. What I want to show you is so stochastic. When Scientology uses the word stochastic terrorism is actually a word for we're being exposed, and they consider that to be terroristic. And the logic there, follow me here, folks. L. Ron Hubbard said that anyone who criticizes Scientology has crimes that would make a judge's, a judge's hair stand on end. It's an old phrase. So he said anyone that criticized Scientology has crimes. So everyone listening to this has crimes, because look at this BS non sequitur. Hubbard said, it will be found by actual research that those who criticize Scientology have actual crimes. No, Ron, sorry, we're all good people. So that's why they call us, when we criticize Scientology, terrorists, like they try to do with Anonymous. And it doesn't work, no. But the stochastic part, here's what Anonymous can't predict. Or I'm sorry, Anonymous, I misspoke. Here's what OSA cannot predict. Here are the sources from which everything can come. And this is why it's stochastic, because they know it's coming. OSA knows the exposure of the church is depravity. It's horrific abuse of children. I'm glad Serge is exposing that. They know it's coming, but they don't know where it's coming or when. They're like a bunch of old people out on a bus tour, unaware that there's the road's washed out on the cliff ahead, and they just don't know when the bus is going to go off. They're unaware they're going off a cliff in a bus. And of course, I'm going to make a joke. And what's the definition of a tragedy? A busload of Scientology lawyers going off a cliff with one empty seat. There you go. Sorry, I had to do it. Such clear thinking, articulate expression. If you're speaking to me, thank you, Danny Mac. But others here in the community, this is a great community. Curtis Harrison. The problem with the ice cream shop is the owner was the scared business owner. Olin, the NBC LA attempt at a news story. Oh, yeah. We spend a ton of money on ice cream. And so that's a different story. I'll go down to the ice cream shop. And I guess if they don't want our business, we won't go there for the luxury ice cream. So this is getting everyone, please like and subscribe. Thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. Sometimes I'm afraid to ask. I don't think it was the owner. I think it was someone else. Would the owner be upset about having all his ice cream sold out in less than 24 hours? Street paid over 150. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where they could have had, for all we know, OSA could have had someone impersonate an ice cream owner. What's interesting is that someone asked me on a live the other day what I thought of the late Gary Scarf, who went by Anon Orange. I'll tell you a story about Anon, since we're remembering some of the old tribal wisdom I want to impart to you. Gary Scarf was a Scientologist. And when Scientology was trying to take down the old cult awareness network, and they wound up taking it over, Gary Scarf went on national TV, I think the Phil Donahue show. I shared this the other day, and he impersonated a survivor of, he said he was a survivor of Jonestown, and that Jim Jones tried to have a gay relationship with him, or they did. He's a weird guy, weird cat. So Scientology has no problem impersonating things, including impersonating a religion. And if you could get ticketed for impersonating a religion, certainly they would be ticketed. So anyway, let's continue on. Scientology knows that the interwebs, it's a connected series of tubes, as we learned in the 90s. The internet is a series of tubes. They can't keep up with the global media or the internet, and we move at the speed of light. So when something happens with Scientology, like, for example, Danny Masterson being moved from Corcoran to San Luis Obispo, the light speed internet knew about it instantly. And the other sources, of course, Scientology, these are known sources that they know and they prepare fair game for. Leah Remini shows Scientology in the aftermath. Leah is now suing them for attacking. That's a classic case of fair game, and Leah is suing. And then there's books like John Atack's A Classic, A Piece of Blue Sky. So there's things Scientology knows about in advance. And when Leah's show was announced that it was airing, Scientology kicked into high gear with a fair game assault online. I worked to counter the lies of the social media fraud. For example, I showed that on my blog that they were using stock photos people. They were just getting stock photos and saying that those were Scientologists. Taryn Choish, the daughter of Mike Rinder, was outright lying, as was his ex-wife, Kathy. They were lying about what was going on. So that's where the community can help out our franchise players like Leah Remini. And I was glad to do my part, as were so many others. So OSA, when it knows that something is going on, they tried to get a piece of blue sky. They tried to buy, when Mark and Claire Headley, of course, lost their lawsuit to Scientology, Scientology offered to remove the $45,000 legal bill that the Headleys were liable for if Mark Headley would turn over the rights to Blown for Good, the book. And no, the community, the community, all of us, raised that $45,000 in like 24 hours. And keeping Blown for Good, the Headley's voice alive was so much more important. And we raised 45,000. And Claire Headley, of course, testified at the second Danny Masterson criminal trial as an expert witness. She was in the Religious Technology Center. According to court documents, at one time, Claire Headley was the third highest ranking member in the Church of Scientology. And Scientology cited that that's one reason she testified as an expert witness at the second trial. And 45,000 is nothing to Scientology. Maybe, but the point is we raised 45,000 in about 24 hours to keep, because we didn't believe in censorship. The church wanted to kill Blown for Good's book, who told so many things. So the point is, when they know about something, they'll fair game it, but when they don't know about it, they won't. And that's why I said yesterday, don't educate your enemy. If you want to do something, just show up. Now, if you're going to do a documentary or a live stream or an event, there's nothing wrong with it. But just know that OSA can then anticipate and put in plants. They can put in agents provocateur. So when you promote an event or something, you can anticipate that OSA can do something about it because they know. But if you're going to do something, you just show up and do it, and you don't give them. So depending on what you're going to do, there you go. See, this is sometimes. Yeah. Okay, got some great testimony. Yeah, Chuck Ross, there is some probability of a coup within Scientology to overthrow the fake Navy Davy to save the church. I don't think so. I respectfully disagree, Chuck. One, because everyone in OSA, anyone who has any power, David Miscavige destroyed them and exiled them, destroyed them, threw them out, busted them, put them in the hole. And that leaves the rest of the people in the church are acquiescent. I'll tell you an interesting story. And you never know where life's going to take you. So should I tell the story? It's about Warren McShane. Yeah, I'll tell a story. It's a human, it's an actual part of my experience. When Monique Rathman was suing David Miscavige, RTC, back in the day, I went down to Como County, Texas, there to New Braunfels to watch the court case. It's a small court, and I had my long hair on, cowboy hat, and one of the deputies, bailiffs, asked me if I was a bounty hunter, which I'm not. Content creator. So anyway, this is an interesting thing. So Warren McShane, president of the Religious Technology Center, was there along with the 20 lawyers representing all the parties, that there were so many lawyers in the courtroom. They had to put lawyers in the jury box. Those were the cheap seats. So Miscavige's lawyers and the church's lawyers were there, and then the PI's lawyers, and the cheap seats were for the lawyers for the other defendants. But there were so many lawyers, 20 lawyers, and I saw it there. And so it's like a church. There's pews on different side. Scientology was crowded over there with dozens of bankers' boxes of evidence. And so during the break, I went to the men's room, and there were only 2 urinals. And suddenly I'm there taking a piss beside Warren McShane, separated only by a partition. And this is, human biology at work. Got to take a leak. And so I thought, well, isn't this just something? I'm here taking a piss next to the president of the Religious Technology Center. And Warren was so stiff and uptight. You could just feel the tension in them. It's like, I don't even know how you could urinate. So you never know where life will take you. There I was, peeing next to Warren McShane in the men's room. And, in a courtroom, judge, I don't recall the judge's name. He's a really good judge. He was running a tight courthouse. So you never know who you'll wind up anywhere. That's just a little bit of real life that happens. And the comments are anyway. So where was it? Oh yeah. So the church didn't see that Rathbun lawsuit coming, but once it did, they kicked into high gear to try to handle that and get rid of the lawsuit, which they did, and that's another story. So I wanted to continue on. Now, when we talk about stochastic, so when we're talking about there's a probability that things will happen, you just can't predict when. When the Jane Does filed civil lawsuit, Danny Masterson and his PR team said we can hardly wait to be acquitted in court so we can sue those women for libel and slander. Well, what we can predict for damn sure is that there will be more criminal charges against Scientologists. We know that. Miriam Francis's father will likely be arrested, and I want that to happen sooner than later. That's at the LA District Attorney's Office for essaying her beginning at age of 3, which is horrific. So there will be more criminal charges against individual Scientologists. We can predict that. We just don't know which ones or where. The probability now is Miriam Francis's father will be arrested here in LA. There will be more lawsuits, civil lawsuits against Scientology. So again, OSA can't predict where the lawsuits will come from, but I think OSA has a pretty good idea of the sex criminals in its midst and who's at risk. So OSA, there's more arrests coming. And if it's not for these SAs, it's going to be for financial fraud. And you yourself may be at risk in the Chase Wave credit card fraud. So yeah, that's stochastic. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming for you, OSA and David Miscavige. And that's why David Miscavige evaded service of subpoena. He doesn't want to be deposed in Leah Remini's lawsuit. Well, you're going to be deposed. And I'm going to tell a story about the last time you were deposed on the 1-1 Club. That's for later. That's for another broadcast. Jim Jenkins asks, question, Jeff, do you think there's any validity to the theory that the cult is trying to get the LA protesters as a gang? Yes, I do. I think the LAPD's actually in league. I think they're conspiring. LAPD is conspiring with Scientology to get the protesters classified as a gang because then they have different legal remedies available to them. And, LAPD, there's a big open source intelligence community, a lot of investigators looking at you guys. And I know that when Chief Gates had the office, he said LAPD was the biggest gang in town. And then after that, the Rampart scandal blew up. So LAPD, I'm just saying, this is free speech. This community that wants Scientology's tax exemption taken away, be clear on this. None of us are opposed to anyone's right to practice Scientology. We're opposed to the conduct. And to the extent LAPD, you're aiding and abetting the church or conspiring with church agents, that's discoverable. That is discoverable. And this time you won't have the Ethics Commission to cover up like they did for Les Moonves and Corey Polka, which got a call on that today that's interesting. So these are the kinds of things OSA can't predict. This is part of what I've shown in the past. The Spina brothers are in prison. Rex Fowler, OT8, murdered his business partner. He's in prison for life in Colorado for first-degree premeditated murder. Devon Newman worked with a white supremacist in a plot I've talked about where they wanted to kidnap, torture, and kill a Las Vegas police officer. Narconon, Georgia was raided, charged with financial fraud, credit card fraud, and Scientology agreed to end Narconon operations in Georgia, and Mary Reeser had to leave so she didn't face criminal prosecution. So yeah, going back to Stochastic, you start using these terms, we'll use them back on you. The real terrorists are the Church of Scientology, and certainly those in LAPD who are conspiring with this cult. And we're not backing down. We're not backing down at all. No one's going to back down. LAPD, you can make false arrests, but the story is going to get big. I think this is going to have some bad blowback for LAPD. It's already being broadcast. The story of the arrests, the Daily Mail carried it, the biggest online newspaper in the world, already carried the story. And you're just bringing more attention to yourself, LAPD, and there's cameras on you. And I don't know that you, wasn't LAPD taken over, monitored by the feds while they spent 5 to 10 years due to corruption many years ago? Well, what happened? This is a great question, Pam. LAPD, almost beat Rodney King to death, and we had the riots as a result, and it was an outrage. So what they had to do is, with the U.S. Department of Justice, is sign a federal consent decree. They put in the second highest ranking official, the director of constitutional policing, and that was Mr. Pfeffer, a lawyer. He was a civilian, Gerald Pfeffer. He was the second highest ranking official. He had his own page. He had done legal work for Scientology in the past as a lawyer. And that's why I think it ran air cover for Scientology for a long time in LAPD was Pfeffer, when he was served a long time as director of civilian policing. So yes, they had to submit to a consent decree. And also the Rampart scandal. Google that and read it if you want to know how dirty they are. That was planting drugs on suspects, largely Latino young men, planting drugs, planting guns. That was really dirty. So LAPD, yes, they serve and protect, except they can get in bed with the wrong people. And this is a thing where bloggers, journalists, vivid memories of Rodney King Beach. Yes, exactly. They will never leave us, SJ. And so this is why we need people. We need people like William. We need, Streets LA is really good at what he does. I'm covering it. I'm doing some investigating of LAPD. And I won't say there's a blogger or what I'm doing. I'm working with some other people, because now we're starting to do some digging. And all of you can do open source intelligence work and let LAPD know. Contact their media relations, write letters saying, look, what you're doing at La Poubelle certainly looks fascist. It looks like third world policing to me. I saw them in a when I was there the other night, I think Saturday, 3 cars pulled up, 6 officers. They formed a skirmish line. And I didn't know that they were staging around the corner. William got that on camera. But when they formed the skirmish line, clearly in retrospect, this was reconnaissance and force, and it was a distraction. So when you're watching their tactics, I think they were already talking about what they were going to do. And so just, when you're protesting, stay within the limits of the law, of course, and realize you're dealing with some police officers who may not be, who may have a hidden agenda because they work part-time for the Church of Scientology. And there should be a disclosure. The LAPD commission should require disclosure if you're working for a nonprofit religious organization, or they should just have a public disclosure of who the cops are working for. We should be allowed to know who our LAPD is working for when they're off duty. And yeah, so there you go. I'm going to go back to this. So there's plenty of criminals. Scientology, I think due to sec checks, they probably know who's at risk. And this is what they're having to deal with. Now, I want to go on to the story. So before I go on to Pablo Escobar and what I talked to a federal law enforcement agency about, that's the update. It's still here in Franklin Village, Los Feliz. It's still very much going on at L. Ron Hubbard Way, and the church is feeling it. They're trying to deal with it. I've been asked to do some investigation of a certain individual, and I am. He is a civilian. You're right. It seems something or some new PTS, that's potential trouble source, pops up for them. Oh, some must look like they're plugging holes in a dam with their thumbs, and another pops up. That's what they have been doing for the last probably 25 years. So much for stochastic terrorism. But anyway, now we know what stochastic means. So now I want to give you, since that is very much trending, I want to keep up on what's going on. And depending on the rain tonight, I may go out in the rain, but if it's an atmospheric river, I'm like the post office. I can brave the wind, rain, and snow to go out and see. But I think they'll have things on lockdown, certainly at L. Ron Hubbard Way. And so weather dependent, I don't know what I'm going to do. I may just go on to Nextdoor and see what the OSA goons are doing. And this is a really interesting local thing. I'm saving it. And look at this going back and forth. You are definitely a Scientologist or Scientology shill. Now, this was a comment. The neighborhood is not under attack. The neighborhood is not under attack. And that's what I was saying yesterday. This alarmist OSA post. And then I liked, this is how effective. Please go to Streets LA Scientology on YouTube if you are curious about the truth. So shout out to William. Shout out to William and Aaron and Jessica and everyone else who's live streaming. The local residents are watching this on YouTube. We saw from William's footage, LAPD is watching the live streams before they go to do BS arrests, right? And we're filming them. And all that footage, what Tallman did, what they did recently, there's plenty of cameras. So, but the local neighborhood on Nextdoor is watching Streets LA. They're watching Jessica. And the trend is very much, no one around here likes the church. I mean, it's got its supporters, but really it's heavy-handed. And so that's just the local. I want to give you the local scene that they're very much watching YouTube. So live streamers continue to live stream. I'm going to go out and do some. John Walker, I loved your lawyer impression. Oh, that's E. Stuart Mills. He'll be back soon. He's not going away. He has David Miscavige, he needs to do some work for. He has to get some billable hours. And when I was talking about one reason I do that East Stewart Mills is, and I said it before, if I were a cynical non-Scientology lawyer, and I said this a long time ago, if I were a cynical non-Scientology lawyer, I would run the dangerous environment racket on David Miscavige. I would say, sir, it's dangerous. You're right. The psychs are after you. Your enemies are after you. They want to take down the church. They want to put you in prison. And I need more lawyers. My firm needs to hire 50 more lawyers. David Miscavige hires so many lawyers that what you could say, if you were going to, what I say is that all that stands between the Church of Scientology and losing their tax exemption are billable hours to non-Scientology lawyers. And if you're a Scientologist lurking under the radar, think about it. The only thing that's saving your church is not the tech, because you guys are not confronting and shattering anything. The only thing that's saving Scientology are billable hours paid to non-Scientology law firms. That's Scientology's salvation. It's not in the tech. And if you think about it, that should be goddamn sobering to you, that all that money you give to the IAS goes to non-Scientologist lawyers for billable hours. And it also goes to real estate. And that's it. And there ain't nothing else happening around here. So billable hours to non-Scientology lawyers, was that why you donated all the money and sacrificed everything to pay non-Scientology lawyers and to buy empty real estate? Really? That's how it ended up? That's what it looks like to me. So yeah, if I were a cynical lawyer, I would tell David Miscavige it's worse than he even thinks. And I needed 50 more lawyers on staff, and I would charge him every billable hour I could. I would take as much money from that son of a bitch as I could, because I'd look at him as a rich idiot. I'd look at him as a paranoid rich idiot. And these cynical lawyers who work for Scientology, oh, they're gonna tell the client what he wants to hear. That's how you get rich, being a lawyer for Scientology. You tell Mr. Miscavige exactly what he wants to hear, sir. And that's part of the East Stewart Mills character, is he's telling David Miscavige what he wants to hear, but it's all billable hours. And yeah, witness, it's those Scientology billing hours. Yeah, thank you for triple tipping for 3 martini lunches. Oh, if I were a lawyer working for Scientology, I would ride that gravy train. I would ride the Scientology gravy train right down into the ground until the IRS ripped its tax exemption away and David Miscavige was in handcuffs, babbling in a cell with Danny Masterson. That's what I would do. Okay? And they would deserve it. Now, switching gears, I talked to a federal law enforcement agency many years ago, and I was giving them a briefing on Scientology's legal construction. And one thing I want to do on my blog early on, and I always say everything actually has to be done. So when I was in corporate selling all those years, and like when I was with Philips, the big Dutch giant, if you wanted to do business with us, we wanted to know who you were. You know, where's your manufacturing facility? Because I sold to manufacturers. I was a B2B. And we want to know a lot about you. So part of the logic of Scientology Money Project blog was to educate the public on how Scientology is constructed legally, its intake system, contracts, etc. And so I was talking to a federal law enforcement agency, and I was giving them a high-level overview of contracts, construction, how RTC works, how CST works, how it's all put together. And this had been done previously, but these were different agents, different agency. Because while Mike and Marty talked to the feds, they didn't, it's very compartmentalized. I'll just put it that. So I was giving a briefing, and this question from out of nowhere an agent asked me, do you think Scientology could smuggle money? Do you think they could launder money? And I said yes. In a subsequent meeting, no super chats, nope, and I don't ask for them. It's nice if I get them, but I don't ask for super chats. So, but they're very nice to get if you care to. But so I got asked, do you think they could launder or smuggle money? And I started doing some research because what I had done is I was doing podcasts in 2013. My wife Karen has Surviving Scientology on YouTube. It's been around since 2013. We've got about 12 million views, but a lot of historical stuff. And so I was interviewing people, so many of who are no longer with us. And I interviewed a staff member who had worked in Colombia. Now, one thing you need to know, very often when Scientology does business outside of the United States, they do it under the name of Dianetics. So what you want to watch for, and there's a reason for doing this. I have seen Dianetics operate in places where an American cult would not be allowed to operate. So Scientology, I'm going to tell you a story about what I talked to the feds about, some more inside information from an old Olgar critic. So let's go to Pablo Escobar. There's a picture of him in front of the White House. And he looks like a tourist on this trip into the US, the biggest drug dealer in the world, the biggest, most powerful and vicious, violent drug lord, goes to Disney World in the White House with his wife and children. So Pablo Escobar, Colombian drug lord, I was doing some research on him, and this is the building where he was killed. And I'm going to get my let me get this up on my blog. This is the building where Pablo Escobar was killed, and I did a post on this many years ago. And basically, I want to share this. So let me go to flip around. I'm going to share a screen. I'm going to share a screen. I'm going to set up the context for why I'm going to talk about Scientology, one of my theories of money laundering. And I'm going to share stop screen there. So Cassie, Isaac, I'm late, so starting from the top, just 5 minutes, say hi. Hi, glad to have you here. Apostate Alex, Sweet D707 here. Hey, Apostate Alex, good to see you. Great work on what you're doing over in London, getting a member of parliament to look into Scientology. Outstanding work. Alex, Apostate Alex blogs at scientologybusiness.com. He covers the UK and Scientology money over there because I don't know UK law. And I really like the work Apostate Alex is doing. My mom almost fell for Dianetics. What stopped her from falling for it? Thank you, Jeff. Following in your footsteps. Well, thank you, Alex. That's a very kind thing to say. OSA doesn't like it. The fact that you're, going to create your blog. They don't like it. So I want to share a screen, and I wish StreamYard were just faster. Okay, so let me share this. Okay, now this is an article I did, and let's look at the date. This is the benefit of building a machine over time. So the Dianetics Center, next door to the Pablo Escobar death house in Medellin, Colombia. I did this in November 2018. And when I was doing some research for the feds, I wasn't working for them. I had just asked to go talk to my government. So I'm not saying that I was working for the feds. So don't get me wrong. I'd actually, Every American has the right to meet with their government, and I only asked for a meeting with my government. And there was a video on YouTube. I was doing some research.
All right, guys. So this is Dr. Reefer, and I am in Calle 45 con
He's in
94,
Medellin. This is a travel
45,
blogger.
and 45D
And what you see,
94 is the address here. And this is where.
Stop. Okay, now you can see that flag. That's Dianetics. So when I was doing some research on Pablo Escobar, Dianetics, Scientology, this blogger, and this is up on my blog, and I'll put it in the show notes. Medellin, Colombia, that's run by the cartel. You're not going to be allowed to have a Dianetics center in there. But this is the house where Pablo Escobar was killed right next door.
3-story building.
And as we go through it, you can see the Dianetics sign. But there's the house. So it's sort of a tourist destination. And what I did on my blog is I talked about Casa Hubbard, the Dianetics Center. Right next door is the house in Medellin in the Los Olivos district. And Pablo Escobar at the time, of course, was the world's wealthiest, most violent drug dealer. He was hiding out in a nondescript two-story home, which you saw. And this is a famous photo taken of Search Block members, along with DEA. They were closing in on Escobar, and they shot and killed him on the roof. And that's the house, and there's the Dianetics sign. And so it blew my mind that Dianetics was operating in Medellin. And I'll tell you why, because Colombia is heavily Catholic. 2, in Medellin, unless you have permission of the cartel to be there, an American cult's not gonna last. The fate of an American cult called Scientology or Dianetics is going to be as bad as Danny Masterson's in a California prison. You don't get to show up in Medellin unless you pay off somebody. So putting things together, I had done a podcast. And I interviewed a young man who had who was a Scientologist, not Sea Org. He was a staff member down in Colombia. And he said in the Dianetics, there was a person who owned some Dianetics centers. Because Dianetics centers, they're like a franchise. You pay SMI, Scientology Missions International, you pay them $50,000, say, for a starter kit. And they give you all your initial inventory, your books, your right to use signage. And then you send them back whatever 10 or 20%, whatever their cut is these days, and you sell Dianetics. So follow me here. If I were a Colombian drug lord and I need to launder money, here's one possibility I discussed with the feds. And again, I'm not working for them. I'm just there talking to them as a concerned citizen, because we're all very so concerned about Scientology and the menace it poses and continues to pose, and the damage it's done. So I would open some Dianetics centers if I were a drug lord. I'd have my cousin open them. The staff member I interviewed said the strange thing is people would come into the Dianetics centers in Colombia, and I have this on tape. I know the guy's name. I'm not going to use it here. And he said that people would come into the Dianetics centers there, and they would drop off huge sums of cash, U.S. denominated cash, for future services, and then never come back. So if I owned 5 Dianetics centers and I was having my crew come in under fake names, we have the same 4 people, just cash, put in, 50,000 a week in 5 centers, that's $250,000. It's $1 million a month. And the Dianetics centers would take it in, and on paper, you would show you delivered Dianetics auditing and you sold books. Basically, you just throw the Dianetics stuff in the dumpster, and then you would transfer the money. You'd pay Dianetics its cut, because Scientology, my theory is they wouldn't want to know and they wouldn't ask. They would just look at the stats, and they wouldn't be on it. They might not even necessarily know, or they don't want to know. And so again, this is my theory, and it was interesting, and I'll show you why. And so the Dianetics Center, you'd pay Scientology their cut, and then you would pay for a construction contract for your Dianetics facilities and other things. You'd pay it to your other company, and that money would go up to Miami, where it would buy condos. And I always say Miami condos. The Russians, launder a lot of money there in real estate. But say the point is, you could use a Dianetics Center. You could use a Dianetics Center to launder money that way up into the United States by selling Dianetics services. And I was going to show you in a minute something else. But one thing I showed to the feds, okay, now back up to around the mid 90s. When I was in corporate, our focus was on reducing packaging size. And all corporations wanted to reduce their solid waste stream. And so we were reducing packaging size. And one thing I showed the feds is I showed them this monstrosity. I showed them these big lecture series. They're big plastic clamshells. But look what's in them. And I'm going somewhere with this. Follow me. You have to follow the way my mind works. Okay, so what's in this big packaging? It's just notes. It's L. Ron Hubbard notes on the Phoenix lectures. So you have 2 booklets, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the soundproof. In the movies, they have soundproof materials so that you don't, so anyway, I don't have the soundproof materials, so you're hearing the plastic crinkling on my Phoenix lectures. Okay, so you have 2 books, and then you have these things. You have these clamshells within clamshells. By the way, Scientologists don't like to be called clams, but that they, in the Xenu.net days, they were called clams, because L. Ron Hubbard said, in I think The Evolution of a Science, maybe one of your readers, one of my listeners, I'm sorry, he said that back on the whole track, when we were clams, we would be on the seashore and we'd be opening and closing our jaws, and Sam would get in there and irritate us. And it caused quite a bit of pain. Hubbard said it was an implant. If you mention the clam on the shore having pain, it would induce an engram in people, and they would have their molar infection and dental disease just by mentioning that. He actually talks about that crazy stuff. But back to crime, true crime in Scientology, my theory. Okay, so inside this clamshell, it's like nested boxes, you get L. Ron Hubbard CDs. Okay, so you get hours and hours of Hubbard bloviating on about, it's actually quite interesting, Smirsh. Everyone who opposes Scientology. And he goes on and on. And so you have this and this. So you have all this packaging. It's like, and then you have this other book, and it is it's a little dictionary that goes with, it's a dictionary that goes with the Phoenix lectures. I'm just looking for here, I'm going to just do some, there's a term called bibliomancy, where you just take the Bible and you flip it open to a page at random and read it. So we're going to do some Hubbardomancy. So we're just going to flip open this Phoenix Lectures dictionary. And it goes to opening procedure by duplication. Quote, a Scientology auditing process that has as its goal the separating of time, moment for moment. This is done by getting a pre-clear to duplicate his same action over and over again with two dissimilar objects until he can do them without communication lag, each time seeing the items newly. It is called uh, opening procedure because it is used to open or start cases. I have no idea what he's talking about. I think they used to call it op pro by dupe. And you anyway, so you have this huge clamshell inside of which you have books, lectures, and the thing is, I made the point to the feds that this could be all put on a memory stick. Okay, you could keep the paper book and just take a memory stick like this or a flash drive, and you could eliminate the packaging. Because as a business person, I was aware of packaging. But I said to them, I said, look at this. If you were down in Colombia operating and laundering money through Dianetics, this is a smuggling device. Look how big it is. You could put in, what, 2 kilos of cocaine? You could put in probably $200,000 in cash. $10,000 in cash and $100 bills has a yellow band, and it's not that much. You could probably put at least 200,000 in here, and this is opaque. It's made of opaque plastic. And if you close it and if you paid off the right people down in Colombia and called it religious materials, because Bridge Publication prints in Spanish and every other language, they brag about printing. I said this would be a very good money laundering device to smuggle money, cash, drugs, or anything else, jewels, anything you wanted. So that was my theory. And the federal agents were very interested in my theory. So, because this is just too much packaging. This is too much packaging for CDs and a book. It's too much. It's just too much. But if I were a criminal, and I'm not because I don't work for Scientology, this would be a perfect money laundering device. And if you pay the right officials, it could go in or out. So religious materials, that's just something that I told the feds. I think that the size of this is like way too much packaging. You don't need that much packaging. It's wasteful. It's wasteful. And so that's my idea. And the question is, why does Dianetics operate in Medellin? I think it has to pay off the local cartel to be there so that it doesn't get killed. Because you shouldn't have, in that kind of town, Medellin, Colombia, you're not going to be allowed to operate if they don't know who you are. The other thing I wanted to show you that is another thing that popped up on my radar. So that's that. And I wanted to go to share another page, another indicia of crime, since we're talking about, Chase Wave credit card fraud operating. This other thing that stood out to me that didn't make sense. When I was doing more research, Scientology in Pakistan. Now, there's no way that, and I did this in 2019, there's a Dianetic Center in Islamabad. And again, I tell you, always, whenever you see Dianetics overseas, especially in a money laundering or terrorist haven, a drug dealing place, drug dealing country, when you see Dianetics, I automatically become suspicious. And I think this is part of the Scientology. One reason I call it a transnational criminal syndicate. Again, an American cult's not going to be allowed in Pakistan. That's not going to happen. And yet, incredibly, they're operating a Dianetics Center, and they're using that term human rights. Provincial Human Rights and Democracy Conference 2019 in Pakistan. And this is a Los Angeles Scientologist. And they're trying to raise money, they claim, for a school. And this is a photo up. And after I posted it, all this vanished offline. here, they're showing the way to happiness in Pakistan. Yeah, that's going to work, right? You have to pay a warlord to do anything, and they're trying to raise money. Now, again, that would be an opportunity to launder money. If you were in Pakistan wanting to get it out of the country, you would donate it to this Youth Together for Human Rights, and they would send it on to the US and take their cut. So there's so many dirty things about it. And there's a typical picture of these children holding up books of the way to happiness. This is such BS, you know, and so they actually gave, and I gave this to the U.S. government. They were kind enough to present their bank accounts. What was interesting, they had zakat money, restricted funds spent only on Muslims. And Hubbard was very insulting of the Islamic faith, very insulting. And that's a show for nothing. But because we had the bank account numbers, that allowed the feds to track this. So they were kind enough to put the stupid enough to put the bank account numbers. So, you know, I present a lot of stuff and turn it over quietly. And the bank that they were using, the Habib Bank, you can see that it's the Habib Bank, National Bank of Pakistan, bank name Habib Metropolitan Bank. In this case, it came up that they were fined 225 million for failure to comply with laws and regulations designed to combat money laundering, terrorist financing, and other illicit financial transactions. So in Pakistan, Christians are routinely murdered under the country's extremist blasphemy laws. So I've seen Scientology operate in Dubai, in Syria, Iraq, Mauritius, and I've documented ties. And this is one is Bob Duggan. He has ties to Iraqi money, and that's the Ali Shawkat story. And I do this through the Panama Papers. So when you start connecting dots, and you know, after Compton Literacy Crusade got raided, Alfredi disappeared from Compton and Linwood, and he suddenly became an international businessman with the Rahman brothers. And of course, Grant Cardone's been down there. He was raising money in Dubai. So I'm saying that when there's plenty of material on my blog, I always welcome. It's free to use, and that's one thing I want to do. But just putting this together, I want to show you the strange tentacles. And for years, after I posted this thing showing Bob Duggan linked to this Iraqi money and to this Spang Electric in Hong Kong, I believe, I got a call from emails actually asking me to take down the story because there was a young man named Bob Duggan and he was being confused. I've told that story before, and it was a reputation defender firm. Duggan was trying to get that pulled off the internet. I'm not going to pull it off, Bob Duggan. So Russia sounds like a perfect laundry for Scientology. Big money, oligarchs, corrupt police, fascist thugs. Well, you know, actually the Russian Orthodox Church hates Scientology. It's been raided by Putin, and Russia may not be their country, but I suspect that's how they stay in there, by paying up. But the president of the Church of, I believe, Moscow was held for 4 years in prison. So I'm a stockbroker that used to work for Schwab. I wonder what I could do to get them to do more looking. Well, your question actually, it's the foundation. It's not the company itself. It's Scientology applying for donations to the Schwab Foundation, which has a huge amount of money. And I did want to go up. There was a question from Jason. Sure, yeah, email me. Just email me. I'd like to look it over. I think we've talked, but email me. So So a couple of things, even as people are live streaming, Scientology is operating transnationally, and they're moving money. And they've been in countries like Pakistan. They're in Medellin, Colombia. And I want to do a special show on Colombia because Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard was active down there through the Echeverria family, which owns Organization Corona since the 50s. And Organization Corona is a big company in Colombia. It's like a Home Depot. They do a lot of the plumbing and things like that. So isn't it interesting when you research and you start looking at Scientology? We're not, we here in America can tend to be sometimes insular and look at Scientology in America where it mainly operates. But when you look at Scientology globally, it gets very interesting the places they are. That's why I'm glad Alex Barnes Ross is doing ScientologyBusiness.com to keep an eye on the Commonwealth countries with Kozrecki. And, I found that they're operating in all of these places that are either Mauritius, for example, is a money laundering haven. I'm going to show you one more thing to educate you that I think is important to know about. And I'm going to show you one resource. So we educate each other. I'm being educated on live streaming, and I'm glad for that. I'm going to educate other people. This is something this is something you should know. I'm going to show you a website that's not very well known. And it's a resource I use, and there's plenty of resources. My point is SPTV, if you want to call it that, or you can just say activists exposing Scientology. We're global. And when you go outside the United States, you see a different type of Scientology. And so you should report anything you see to your local taxing authority or government. Apostate Alex actually has a member of parliament looking into Scientology in England, which is terrific. I wish some of our politicians here in the US would get off their asses and look into Scientology. The IRS, it's a dead end. They don't want to do anything at present. And I don't know what it would take to get the IRS to act. There's some inertia. Part of it is the Office of IRS Commissioners, a revolving door. You go into the IRS on your career path up because you want to get into Treasury Department. But don't give up the effort ever. But I want to show you an interesting resource that you may not know about. And this is the Financial Crimes Network. The Financial Crimes Network of the United States government. I'm sorry, let me go over here. FinCEN. And if you don't know about FinCEN, it's just fincen.gov. FinCEN.gov. This, I'm going to enlarge a little bit here. Let me take it up. Financial Crimes Enforcement Network of the United States government. This is certainly something you could read about. And the ChaseWave credit card fraud, of course, FinCEN would have taken cognizance of it. And this is where you're getting into it. I have up on my blog how to report Scientology to the IRS, and you should, even though right now they seem disinclined to do anything. But I think after the ChaseWave credit card fraud, that's all going up. But this is the kind of, when you really get down and dig, FinCEN, it has to do with money laundering, counterterrorism financing, all kinds of things. So this is an interesting resource that you should know about. And you don't have to be an American citizen to report financial crimes of the Church of Scientology to the FBI or the US Treasury or the IRS. So that's in a nutshell. So when we look at the value of online activism, is we can talk about right here in Franklin Village in Los Angeles, where I live, and what's going on with live streamers. But our reach goes to Dianetics operating in Colombia, operating in Pakistan. The things it's doing with Kazreki that Alex is covering in the Commonwealth countries. I have a map I'm going to show on the next presentation of Scientology locations in South America. There's a lot of places Scientology shouldn't be in South America. And I wonder if this is part of the transnational operations they do. So Scientology is bigger than you think. We tend to get focused. We here in America tend to get only focused in America, but it's bigger than you think. It's sophisticated. And there's some definite things I've reported to my government, and you should report to yours if you have anything. Oh, exactly, Adorable Anarchy. Pacer, Wayback Machine, Panama Papers. My Pacer bill every quarter is substantial. And Pacer, I promised to do a show on that, and I'm going to show you how Pacer works, how you can get court documents. You buy them, but wow, my Pacer bill is big every quarter, covering things. My job falls under OFAC. What is that? Can you, Adorable Anarchy, what is OFAC? Federal Trade Commission. Yes, I've covered extensively. If you go to the SEC and Federal Trade Commission, the late Doug Doring, ABC Mouse, he had to pay $10 million to the Federal Trade Commission because he was running a roach motel. And that was his website. A roach motel is defined as a place where credit cards go in, but they don't go out. So late Doug Doring, who died at 66 last year, I believe, Aaron reported on it, is another OT who died too young. He had to pay $10 million in cash to the FTC because he made it impossible. He made it easy to sign up for ABC Mouse. By the way, ABC Mouse, I was checking on them, and they're running a 70% off sale for February. One wonders about their cash flow. I just check up on these Scientology-owned companies periodically to see if there's any lawsuits or anything. Oh, okay. Thank you, Adorable Anarchy. Look at the kind of audience we have. That's impressive. Office of Foreign Assets. It's anything having to deal with Cuba, Syria, North Korea, Crimea, and parts of Russia. Xenu on a pogo stick. Adorable Anarchy, if you would be kind enough to email me, I could use your help. See, this is what's so great about an online community in real time, how fast we can make stuff happen. And Scientology lawyers and OSA probably just got a shudder up their spine when they saw your credentials, Adorable Anarchy. They don't think you're adorable. Cuba. L. Ron Hubbard spent time in Cuba. I once had an unconfirmed rumor that he owned a ranch in Mexico and that he owned a ranch in Cuba. I always wondered what he was doing, but he spent a lot of time in Cuba. And there are some things going on that I found in Eastern Europe with Scientology operating under the name Dianetics. So we also cover the SDN list, which is the list of bad people. Yeah, let them know what SDN is. Yeah, the list of bad people. Oh, well, I'm honored to have you on my show. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? Look at all those weather emojis. We're wet, and have a great. I'm sorry to hear that. Your son, go take care of your son. Of course, I will. Well, thank you, and we'll keep it confidential because Scientology doesn't know what we know. And the thing is, we have such Scientology because it's anti-intellectual, and it depends on outsiders. Like I know who its CPA is, a guy in Beverly Hills, and this is the most intelligent internet community starting with Jeffrey. Well, no, I'm not the smartest guy around. I'm by any means. Look at John P. Capitalist. He's amazing, but I appreciate it. I try to do my work. Specially designated persons. Do you hear that, OSA? I wonder if a certain David Miscavige, who I think has multiple passports and identity, just to get into the dirt a little bit, here's how it works. Let's go a little bit far afield since we're talking about crime and Scientology in general. very wealthy people, criminals, you can buy a citizenship in a lot of countries. And then what you do is when you buy citizenship in, say, Curacao, where the free winds anchors, that rust bucket, you legally change your name. You hire a Dutch tax lawyer, maybe, to legally change your name. And then you get a new passport from Curacao, and then you go to another island under the new name and you buy citizenship, and then you legally change your name. And you do this 10 or 12 times and you daisy chain it until you have 12 passports under different names with citizenship in 12 different places where you can buy citizenship. And I suspect David Miscavige probably has a safe full of those passports. L. Ron Hubbard, I'll leave you in closing. You can Google this. L. Ron Hubbard had a Bulgravia plant, and Bulgravia is Bulgravia. You can Google L. Ron Hubbard Bulgravia. And so I like to watch where the super yachts go. Oh, no kidding. Ports are amazing. If you follow the super yachts, and it's funny how since Russia started, the Russian oligarchs, they can't use their super yachts. So anyway, L. Ron Hubbard had a Bulgravia plan, and that he said when you move off a point of power, you fill your pockets with money, pay off the local cops, and have blackmail on your enemies. So David Miscavige, probably in my opinion, he has an escape plan if he ever has to flee and go underground. And that's not, I wouldn't put that past him to have a lot of identities. And that's one reason I think they keep the ship, because maybe David Miscavige, I know for certain that David Miscavige is on some lists. I know that for certain. I got a kick out of the judge, Judge Hammock, in the Leah Remini case, scolding David Miscavige recently, saying that he was the apparent leader of a global religious movement. Apparent leader. For a judge to say that is that you're not willing to be served, and yet you're the apparent leader of a global religious movement with a lot of lawyers. So all in all, pretty amazing stuff. And I hope you enjoyed the local coverage of what's happening here with the live streamers here in LA. And also the Pablo Escobar story about why is Dianetics in a cartel-controlled country in Medellin, Colombia. And I think it goes back to these big plastic boxes are part of the equation, because really, folks, everything in Scientology could be put on a memory stick. You don't need this much packaging for 10 CDs in a book. You could really put everything down there. So that's just my theory. And Scientology, that's just so you know what goes on, So there's a lot of things when you start looking at Scientology under a microscope that don't add up. And likewise, when you start looking at the relationship of LAPD to Scientology, a lot of things don't add up. I hope our district attorney, Mr. Gascon, launches an investigation, and we'll just take some comments. Hubbard projected his rotten teeth onto the clams and a fellow fraud Piltdown man because science. Yes, Elron, the Piltdown man fraud. Hubbard mentions that in one of his books. By the way, I want to give a shout out to two people. Liz Gale. Liz, I love the unpackaging you do. I just really enjoy when you unpackage stuff and you're going through unpackaging Scientology materials. It's so amusing. It's so funny. And then Natalie Webster, she does a daily roundup on SPTV of what's going on. So I like in the morning to check Natalie's show because she does a good roundup of all the videos that go on. I really appreciate that. So there you go. Let's go through comments. So I can't hit everything. We've got great comments, but a pleasure dealing with you. We're at an hour 40. And so I'm just going to shout out to Adorable Anarchy OFAC. Oh, Scientology, you just don't know the vast array of stochastic SPs, stochastic suppressive persons. You have no idea of the size or the sheer brain power and intellect and resources, both on the streets as live streamers and people who are with OFAC. You have no idea of the stochastic SPs who are arrayed against you and want your tax exemption taken down. And we're never going to give up that goal. So there you go, OSA. And it's a rainy night, and I'm sure you'll be up working late. So, Natalie, thank goodness for I cannot watch it all. I need the recaps. Yes, I think Natalie performs a great service. I really like watching her. And we'll eat in Sweet Liberty. Fantastic information tonight. Thank you, Jeffrey. This all makes so much sense. Well, thank you. That's why the Scientology Money Project is such a great project, is we can move from Franklin Village and Francois, and all the way to Pakistan and getting accounts. And I have more on dirty banks connected to Scientology. So any tips, I'm always glad to take them. Email them to me. And I've got to do this. And this is, Anna cracks me up. As far as we know, Davey can have duck lips, an identity change surgical operation till now. Living his best 007 life. Oh, that's funny on so many levels, Anna. Davey duck lips. Surgical operation. Someone in the comments up thread asked about, Danny maybe changing to Danielle. I don't have any information on that. Who knows what happens there? But this is really funny. Now, there's a guy on Tony Ortega's blog, Mark. He needs to do a shoot of Davey duck lips. Yeah, could you imagine Davey getting Botoxed up? I know Tom Cruise, he went through a period where his face was swelling because he's getting the treatment, and it comes back into, it comes back into shape. But Davey, duck lips on the run under an assumed name. And again, as I mentioned yesterday or the other day, L. Ron Hubbard's last name was Jack Farnsworth when he was hiding out in San Luis Obispo, where inmate Danny Masterson is presently. So he's maybe the ghost of Jack Farnsworth, also known as L. Ron Hubbard. Maybe the ghost of L. Ron Hubbard will visit Danny in prison and give him some pinks and grays. OSA needs a serious audit after all that information. I think they do. So with that, thank you so much for watching. This is Jeffrey Augustine for the Scientology Money Project on SPTV, and I'll see you next time around.